Hello and welcome to our channel. Today I'm going to show you how we teach these wild Mustangs to load in a trailer. Stay tuned. So today I have with me a 5-year-old Mustang gelding. We call him Prince. And Prince tends to have a very domineering attitude. So you'll kind of see a little bit of that play out. He is learning to be more submissive and to respect boundaries. We've been working on that. But this is only his 4th time wearing a halter. So, learning to accept me as a leader is difficult for him, but he'll get there. An exercise that I love to work on though is trailer loading. It's not just about loading the trailer. In the process of going through this exercise, you're going to see how he gets better and softer at circles and giving to pressure on the halter and being touched all over his body with my training stick. So there's a lot of things that come out of this exercise, which is why I don't tend to put it off very long. So here we go. So the only time Prince has ever seen this trailer was when we went to the holding facility to pick him up. He was run through a chute with other horses, and the only direction he could go was forward into the trailer. So it wasn't exactly a good experience. Right now, I'm going to start out with being friendly with my stick, letting him know not to fear it. We review this a lot through this exercise. Then we'll do a few circles. The whole idea of what I'm going to be working on here is the trailer is going to become a place of rest and shade. Being out here is a place of work and moving his feet. So it's a little uncomfortable. Once he figures that out, he's going to get to where he loves the trailer. So here we go. Just like with any lesson I'm teaching, I like to start by being friendly with the horse. I use my training stick, I pet and rub him all over. I try to make it something pleasant and enjoyable even. Then I'm going to ask for circles. Now, this guy has only done circles a few times, so he's been introduced to it, but he's certainly not good at it. He's also very distracted by my other horse that's tied to the fence behind the trailer there. So he kind of wants to go over. But that's okay. It's just a distraction and he'll learn to work through it. So I'm going to ask him to change directions back and forth. Now remember, I mentioned this guy is very much a leader. So he tends to like to crowd my space, and I'm having to work on that each step of the way. Next, I'm going to start letting him rest beside the trailer ramp. I don't expect him to go in yet, but I want him to start associating being by the trailer with a place to rest. And each time we do it, I'll ask for a little bit more. Now here you get to see his dominant side showing again. He just decided he didn't want to circle anymore and was going to go over by the fence. I had to remind him that I'm in charge here and go right back to circles. Remember, I want to make the wrong choice difficult and the right choice easy. Now notice here, he actually pauses and voluntarily takes a look at the trailer. Then he does it again. He's starting to get the idea that being by the trailer, life gets easy. But when he leaves the trailer, he has to go back to work. So now I'm actually building that foundation for him to love the trailer. Now because it's pretty hot out today, you can see how he's already sweating. I actually don't want to overly stress or exert him. I also know that he may get a little testy if he gets upset. So rather than risk setting him up for failure, I want to set him up for success. I'm going to ask him a couple of times to try to step on the ramp on his own, but I'm not going to fight it. At this stage of his training, he's a lot more comfortable with me leading him places than with me driving him from behind. Now I'm going to ask him to put a foot on the ramp. In this case, he gave me 2. After a brief rest to reward his good decision, I'm going to back him up and we're going to go right back to doing circles and moving his feet away from the trailer. Now at this point, I'm going to speed up the video so you can still see the steps I take, but things will go a little faster. Understand, I'm simply repeating these exercises over and over. First, I'm going to lead him in a couple of times, asking for further each time. After he's fairly consistent with being led in, I'm going to go back to asking him to drive in while I remain outside of the trailer. I'm going to freeze frame here for a second because I want to give a disclaimer. I almost didn't show you this next clip thanks to all the internet trolls out there, but I decided it's an excellent source of educating. You know, accidents happen when we work with horses, no matter how hard we try to prevent them. In this case, I have a textured rubber ramp for good grip, but for whatever reason, apparently his feet were a little slick today. So you're going to see what happens here and how I handle it. I'm going to show it again while I explain. So the horse slips and falls, and I just let him go. This is a very critical point. This can be a bad experience for him, or it can actually be a good one. In this case, I've introduced the idea that the trailer is a place of rest and shade and comfort. So by allowing him to simply go into the trailer and work this out on his own, in his own mind, I reinforced the idea that the trailer is a refuge. When he's ready and he's looking at me and he's calm, that's when I approach. Thankfully, the horse was okay in this instance. He got a little scrape on his leg, but otherwise there was absolutely no repercussions. At this point, I have to make another choice. I could put the horse away and call it a day, but that would not be the ideal. If the horse is okay and still walking comfortably, it's a much better option to end on a good note rather than ending with that slip on the ramp. So I'm going to go right back to work. I'm going to let him go a little slower at his own pace, and I'm going to set him up for success by having him approach the ramp from a straight line rather than at an angle. This will help reinforce for him that going into the trailer is a good thing, and the ramp does not need to be feared. It depends on the horse, but generally speaking, I try to lead them in 2 or 3 times and drive them in 2 or 3 times. After they've succeeded, it's time to move on to the next part of the session. I'll speed it up again here, but for this step, I'm going to reconfigure my trailer to create a shorter box for him to load into. Once again, I'm going to ask him to load 2 or 3 times calmly and respectfully, and then we'll move on. So I mentioned earlier that the only time he's been loaded was through a chute. Now I'm going to progress and ask him to do a step up into my trailer. We actually had a custom built trailer so I could use the side door just for this purpose. It's a little higher than an average trailer, but that actually works to my benefit because it's only easier to load them later. But generally speaking, I've found that once I've taught him to load on a ramp, loading onto the step up usually goes a lot easier. But we'll see. I'm going to repeat the exact same steps where I start with some circles to move his feet. And notice here how he instantly goes and takes a look at the trailer. This is a good sign that he's really become interested. Even though he turns away, I just keep moving his feet back and forth, working on his transitions and changes of direction. And finally, with a little extra coaxing, he decides he'd rather go into the trailer. I'm going to speed it up once again for brevity, but just like the other phases, I'm going to ask him to load 2 or 3 times very calmly and then move on. By the way, I want to make a quick note here. I realize not everyone has a nice big trailer to practice loading with. That's fine. You still use the very same principle of working away from the trailer and being comfortable in or around the trailer to practice loading. I've loaded in almost every type of trailer there is, and I use this exact exercise. In order to prevent him from getting bored with this exercise, I'll switch sides when I ask him to load, and I'll also lead him in just to practice. If the horse has done well and doesn't seem bored, then I'll finish up with one final little game where we just walk all the way through the trailer, in the ramp, out the door, and then in the door and out the ramp, just to change it up and have a little fun. All right, well, Prince did a great job. Most horses I find tend to take to this exercise pretty easily. You know, horses tend to be fairly lazy creatures for the most part, and they really don't like to work if they don't want to. So by moving their feet out here and letting them rest and be comfortable in there, they tend to start really liking the trailer and even seeking it out. In fact, years ago, I had a Mustang that was a bit of a Houdini. She liked to escape from her pen. As long as we left the trailer door open, amazingly, we would always find her standing in the trailer. Absolutely hilarious, but this exercise works. So we're gonna go ahead and give Prince some playtime. He made a lot of improvement in all those areas, circling, giving to pressure, just overall relaxing. So that was a good session, right, boy? Well, hey guys, thanks again for watching our channel, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss upcoming training tips and sessions that we do with these Mustangs. You never know, it may help get you out of a pickle. Also, leave us a comment. Tell us about any great trailer stories or loading stories you might have, or tips that you found to be very helpful when loading your horses. We'll see you next time.